Hello, this is Marty, Business Analyst for the Visual Development Team, and today we will cover the features and benefits of using the Advanced Browse window. We will begin by looking at the configurations and sorts that exist, followed by filters, then we will look at advanced options, and finally we will cover additional tools. Browse configurations and sorts. We will begin by looking at editing the layouts that exist inside of the browse tables. Starting in part maintenance, I'm going to press the browse drill down button, and inside of here you'll notice that I can go right to the grid. I'll expand the grid, and I will go over and actually start working with the columns. If I wanted to make the part maintenance or part ID column larger, I can stretch it at this point. I can also come across and move columns inside of the grid. So I'm going to move my on-hand quantity to the left and save the positioning. To add columns to the current grid, I can go into Edit Columns. And here I also have a level of configuration that I can work with. For example, I already have the top two columns in positions 9 and 10. If I wanted to switch them, I could actually change it here. I'm changing one to 10 and the other one to 9. So my ABC code will now be in the 9th column in my grid. I also want to show you that I can come down here and add a column just by clicking in the Include button. And I can also change the title that appears in the column. I'll use the @ sign for a carriage return. And now I'm going to just add in my own ID that I want to identify the buyer user ID by. It's going to be my buyer contact. So when I accept the window, now you can see the column for buyer contact fitting at the end of my grid. With this update, I now want to go through and save what I've made in the changes. Next, we will look at naming our filters or our current configuration underneath the profile menu. I'm going to begin by going into the Save As feature. And here you'll notice I'm able to go in and type in my name of my filter. So I'm going to create it at this point in time. Press OK, and then I'm going to go back in and select it from the Open option. And here you can see my named filter, as well as one that I have done previously. Let me select the older one, and you'll notice that the columns and the selections have changed. I can always go back to my new filter, and the display updates with that latest. Next, we will look at the sorts for any column, as well as being able to stop the current retrieval of search. Simply by going to the top of a column, it will sort the column. Here you'll notice that my part IDs are now sorted in ascending order, and then I'll go over to the on-hand quantity. If I wanted to do it in a descending order, I could go through to the file and refresh. So the current column selected is now descending. Another simple way to sort would be just by going on top on purchase parts and selecting, and you'll notice that the fabricated parts come on top. Here you'll notice that I have the stop button, and I can abort my current query. Now that we've completed the configuration, let's go through and see how to filter our search results. And we'll begin by looking at Use Quick Filtering. And inside of there is also an option for Dynamic Filter we'll cover as well. Quick Filter can either be accessed from the Data menu or directly from the icons that are on the main menu. See the filter icon? I'll press it and you'll notice that I'll insert a row, and here's where I can go in and enter in a piece of data or a portion of the data that I want to do the research on. And in my example here, I'm going to go look for parts that begin with MMC, and I'll use the percentage sign as my wildcard. It will begin with MMC and give me all of the parts that begin with MMC and any data that belongs after that. I'll use the reset icon now, and I'll go back to the original query. Next, I want to try to show you the dynamic filter, if that was enabled. Also using the quick filter, coming back in with my same search, and you'll notice that the filtering is happening automatically. The next filter option is the search, also known as query by example. We'll also look at search on initial entry. So with the query option, we can either go through the data menu again and press search or press the magnifying icon. It will also give me the search window. In here you'll notice I'll be able to go through and have all the columns that are in my current grid. Up on the top I have the choice of entry, must include all of the attributes, or I could choose the option of any attribute. Underneath the help icon above, I'm able to come and give you the descriptions of what can be browsed and what can be searched, how to use this filter. And I'll use my example that I did previously. I'll type in MMC %. I'll press OK. And here you'll notice that I get the results. Let's go in and try another search. This time we will go through and I want to display the bottom option of looking between two strings of data. I'm going to come in and open and close the paren. I'm going to start by keeping it simple and just starting my string with the letter C. I'll put a space between the strings. I'm going to say stop at H and look at my data output. I want to filter it even further with inside of that, so I'll make the strings a little bit larger. I'll start with CR and then I'll actually go down to G2. Filtering at that point, you'll notice that I have a smaller search area. Now let's look at setting Query by Example to automatically come up when I press the Browse button. This may help with your performance going forward on browsing. I'll go underneath the Options menu, search on initial entry, close the Browse, and now when I press the Part ID Browse button, I automatically get the QBE window where I can set my query, and you'll notice in the background it's not fetching any detail or any data. There are also multi-site filters where you can look at viewable sites or allowable sites. For multi-site, we're going to begin by looking at user viewable sites. In this dialog, you notice that my France sites are available and all the other sites are allowable, and that is set up in security for the allowable sites. I'm going to drill into my part ID. My initial browse will only be focused to the open site. I'll go over and press the viewable sites. In here you'll notice all of the sites within inside of my France entity are appearing. Next I'll go over to allowable sites, and I do get to see the visibility to all of the parts for each site. Let's begin to look at some advanced options. We'll begin with launching the Auto Browse command. So going back into our browse window, inside of here I'm going to go into Options, and I already have the feature enabled, Auto Browse enabled. I'll go back out to the main form. Here, instead of hitting the browse, I directly go into the field and I start typing in some of the characters that I know that I want to include in my search. I tab out of the field, and here is the list of things that match my initial search on Auto Browse. The next advanced option is Keep Browse Visible, which includes the option of single-click selection. Going back into the browse and going into the option menu once again, we'll focus on Keep Browse Visible. So you notice the browse window is open now and I can start making selections for my part, either by double-clicking or selecting and going up to the OK icon. I can select the part IDs inside this list. And you'll notice that the browse remains open. The next option included with this Browse Keeps Open is the single-click selection. So from here, I can just directly select the parts and it'll automatically fill the part maintenance form. You can also design and modify your browse using the SQL. Under the Data menu, we can now go into the SQL option. Here you will notice that the SQL statement has already been structured. It's showing you the connection between the part and the part site table. I'm going to go in and add in another condition. Here I'm going to select the part site's quantity on hand, and I just want to find out where the quantity is less than 0 for my current site, and you can see my result set. The last group to review for the advanced browse will be the additional tools. In this section, we will begin with looking at Print the Browse Result Set. There are two places where you can actually go and do the printout. You can do it from the icon or from underneath the File menu. And in my options, I have decided to go through and print it to a PDF file. And here you'll notice the output, and the output is going to be limited to the first 5 columns. An export to Excel is also available. Send to Excel is available on the main menu, or you can also access it from the File menu. And with the export, you do get the full details when exporting. The next two features are System Administrator features. They are not available in every browse window. The Auto Browse window includes the ability to import from Excel. You can set up your templates and import the details and data. You can do it from either the main menu or underneath the File menu. There is access to the Import Excel. For my example, I will select an existing Excel file, bring it in, and import it into my Auto Browse window. Saving will commit it to the database. The Open for Edits option also allows the user to use the browse window to manipulate or change the details and the data that are inside your current selection. So here I am changing the manufacturer, and I'll save it and commit it to the database. The final auto browse tool that I will show is the drag and drop feature, which is available in some line item tables. In my example, you can see that I'm going into the Part ID line browse. Here I can go through and I can do a multiple selection. And from the multiple selection, I will now drag the details that I have selected and put them in to my line table. Thank you for viewing this session on Advanced Browse.